Hey, Ken, so talk to us. What's one piece of advice you can give us this morning?
One piece of advice that I would give you, Michael, is that if you want freedom and you want flexibility and you want a future that you're in control of, start your own practice. Don't go corporate.
Okay, so then let's dive deeper on that. What would be the biggest illusion of freedom that corporate dentistry sells to dentists?
I think what they want dentists to believe is that all the headaches, all the angst that comes with running my own practice, I get to just do away with, right? I get to come and go as I please. I get to set my own schedule. I get to take my vacations. I never have to worry about making a payroll. All those elements of practice ownership just evaporate. And they do that for a lot of reasons. The number one reason is that I've heard is from family, right? They want to be able to see their spouse. They want to be able to see their kids. They want to be able to go on vacation. And my premise is if we get the planning part on the front end correct, if we spend a little bit of time organizing that first 1 to 3 years, then you, practice owner, will have a lot more freedom than you ever realized possible by owning your own practice. And it comes with a lot of other rewards aside from that surface scheduling and freedom type of notion.
hmm So it makes a lot of sense because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, because sometimes when we do start practice ownership, I mean, we're within year one, year two, and little do we know, we're like, man, I did this to have more freedom and I'm here open to close every day, doing everything. Now, this is expected.
It's expected, and there's more to it than that. I think if there's, one recipe for entrepreneurship globally, it's going to be have an idea to do something that's been done, but better than ever with a certain amount of core values. And then we'll keep it a family show. Work one's fanny off to get the thing off the ground. And what I'm saying is, while that can be true, there's a way to be a lot more intentional, meaning let's separate the difference between the practice of dentistry and running a dentistry practice. Those are two separate hats. And that's where it becomes all encompassing because we mush the two together. So there's a certain art and science to running the practice and a certain art and science to dentistry itself. And with all the years that dentists put in to their education, 8 minimally, as a starting point, it's at least that. They know better than anyone the art of dentistry. What often isn't taught is how to run a business, the business of dentistry. And if we get some of those planning elements early on, then I think we see the freedom a lot sooner than if we're still kind of mired in the day-to-day operations and flipping between, I have a patient waiting for me in the operatory and Susan called in sick today. Those two things pull us back and forth. But if we can start to organize and build structure in the beginning, we start to see our efforts yield fruit a lot sooner.
Okay, so then what are some of those pillars in the planning process that you're like, hey, you need to have these things set already in mind?
First of all, begin with the end in mind. Why are you owning this pro? What did you get into this industry for? What was the magic? What was the draw? What did you always want to do? What did you want to do differently than you'd seen done? And what did you just love about the whole part of it? For instance, one of the first dentists I ever worked with, she just loved the idea that she knew that most people feel so anxious when they go to the dentist, but they've got to go, right? And she just has a thing about her that she walks in the room and she's a calming force. She knows that's what she's good at. And she always wanted to bring that and felt like the example she'd seen, there was kind of a different pace, right? And just changing that pace a little bit helped the patient feel a lot better. So she maximized what she was already good at. Does she spend a little bit more time on the front end? Yes. Does she get better pull through? Do more of her patients keep their appointment? Yes. Do they accept her treatment plans more readily? Yes, they do. So all of that folds into the unique piece. So begin with the end in mind. Why are you starting a practice? What is unique about you and how you're going to approach your profession of dentistry? What are you going to do better? And let's make that the core of the business. The second thing is just because everybody else does it a certain way doesn't mean you have to. So same dentist used, early on, she found an accountant who specializes in dentistry. So he provides a lot of data, average payroll and so on and so forth, all the metrics. And sometimes her data is outside the range of average, but she knows why she's making that decision, right? So you get a handle on, you make firm decisions Just because everybody else does it a certain way or spends a certain amount doesn't mean I have to if I can tie that to one of my core values or the whole point of my practice in the first place. So you'll keep hearing me say there's a lot of really amazing structure you can build early on if you know exactly who you are in your own profession. And I find that most dentists in particular are very specific about why they went into the profession. I mean, nobody just accidentally goes into dentistry, or none that I've met anyway.
Interesting. So then, if we rewind a little bit, beginning with the end in mind, are there any wrong answers to that?
Aside from I don't know or not being aware of it, that's sort of the wrong answer, if you will, because I think it's from young looking glass. It's if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. This is also, we can find other enterprises that are the same way. They kind of meander along, not making a lot of money or struggling or working from dawn to dusk because there's no intention behind it. So they just keep going. It becomes a reactionary venture. Every day is walk in and see what the office is going to give me. So if you want that practice of your dreams, we have to be really specific about mapping out exactly why you're doing what you're doing, because what that enables you to do. So the wrong answer is I don't know, or I'm not sure. The right answer is if I know exactly why I'm in the business, then I know what to say yes to and what to say no to. Hiring is a great example. It's easy to find people qualified to be, for example, a hygienist. Very easy to determine whether or not they're qualified. But do they fit in your practice? Are they core values matched? Do they help create that environment that you'd always wanted to create? Setting intentions like that around hiring core values help you make the right hiring choices so that not only can they do the job, but they feed that whole environment that you're looking to create. And once you create that kind of environment, you experience lower turnover. Lower turnover means less headaches, less expense, and a better patient outcome.
So then what are the questions in order to get there that I should be asking myself?
Yeah. Why did I start? What do I want to eventually do with this practice? So some dentists, it's a family affair.
Mm-hmm.
There are spouses, brothers, sisters, cousins, parents, etc. in the mix. Like they intend to hand this thing down or hand it over. What do you want the end in mind to be? What do you think you need in terms of resources, right?
Mm.
There are plenty of people like me out there that have a structure and framework so that you can take that skeleton, if you will, and put the uniqueness around it. So what is your structure? What kind of templates are you using to build your practice? Think of it this way. The human being is 206 bones. All 8 billion of us, absent illness or injury, have the same 206 bones. No two are alike. So same thing. Think of templates and business planning, etc., as your skeleton. You start with the skeleton and then you completely make it your own, right? There are some elements of dentistry you wouldn't get away from because that's the business, but you can make it your personality. So what I'm saying is a lot of times people think that in the corporate environment, they'll be able to get rid of the headache or the operations of a business or being the CEO of their own business, if you will. They think they're going to get rid of that and then keep all the part of freedom, arranging their schedule the way they like, creating the atmosphere they like. And that's not true. You may get the steady paycheck, but you're going to give up the part where you get to create what you've always wanted to create. So ask yourself, do I have the structure? Do I have a business plan, if you will? The operations of the business, do I have that piece? Where am I going to get it? Rally your resources, find out what's missing. And this is the hardest part for those that are in the thick of it right now. And they're thinking, I barely have time to eat a meal, much less plan my business. It's that you have to stop long enough to get out of working in it to work on it. It's never going to change if you don't pause yourself long enough to think strategically and really plan out the business. And I know it's the hardest thing. I've worked with many dentists, plenty of entrepreneurs at large. It's always the same thing. I don't have time. And the challenge, I put it on myself just like I would any client I'm working with. We all get 168 hours a week. 168, that's what we all get. I always think, is there somebody doing what I'm doing, but doing it more efficiently than I am, that I can look to, think, what are they doing different? The competitive advantage is always how we use time. The one resource we can't replenish, right? I can't get a line of credit for time. Nobody gets extra. So how are you using your time and where are you going to create some pockets to work on your practice versus in your practice? That's what you would want to ask yourself. What's
Mm.
going to change? If you keep doing what you're doing every day in your practice, you'll never get a different result.
Let me ask you, how does that look when it comes to working on and in? So, for example, I mean, can it mesh or can it blend or can we get confused in the sense of, yeah, Michael, or yeah, I am posting on social media, or yeah, I am talking to my employees, I am looking for people to hire. Is that working in or is that working on it? You know what I mean?
It does blur. And here's the best part of owning your own practice. From an operation standpoint, when you're talking about the business of dentistry, you get to bring all of your experience and knowledge as a dentist into running a practice. You also have to separate them a little bit, right? If you're reacting every day you walk in the door, then that's in it. You're constantly in it and you're in a reactive state. Working on it means I take time away. I carve out Monday afternoons, if you will, to specifically work on a hiring process, a training process, improving some of our systems to make sure we have, instead of 95% of our patients showing up for their appointments, 98% show up for the appointments because, an empty operatory is not profitable. So that's working on it. In it is where we get distracted with the quick questions. And it can also be a great thing because you went to dental school, so you probably want to be with patients. So make sure when you're with patients, you're the dentist. Business is running, you're the dentist, you're the doctor. The patient are counting on you to create that experience and be solely focused on that. There's a little bit of, again, art and science to flipping those hats that we wear back and forth. But you always bring your whole person, right? You always bring your expertise. Maybe you have a background in marketing as well as dentistry. So you would bring that knowledge and that experience and that perspective to your marketing endeavors.
Interesting. So then some of these actionable takeaways, one of the last few questions I wanted to ask you is if a corporate dentist right now listening today wanted to create a self-operating, profitable practice within the next 3 to 5 years, what would their first 3 steps be?
Write out a business plan. Get it out of your head and onto paper. What's that dream? What does it look like? Start with the end in mind. What is a perfect day owning your own practice? What does that look like? Number 2, start looking for templates. A lot of us in coaching in particular have all sorts of templates for setting up a business, and find one that has a lot around dentistry. And number 3, create a timeline for yourself. It's okay to have a dream, but if you don't have a date attached to it, you'll never get the dream to come true. So write out the dream, find your templates that you can start to fill out, and set some time, some dates around those action steps, and you will create your own practice.
Gotcha. The templates, where do we even start? How do we look?
I've got a ton at my website. Anyone can contact me. They're available. Many coaches have them. If you went to kenkilday.com, I can give you all sorts of templates to get you started on sketching out your business.
Nice. Awesome. So that's going to be in the show notes below. And then what's a common false belief about entrepreneurship that you wish more dentists understood sooner?
Oh, I wish they understood sooner that it really isn't the giant on-call type of headache they think it's going to be. I think sometimes people are self-motivated by creating crisis, if you will. If you are really intentional, more often than not, you can run a nice practice and still get enough sleep at night and not have that feeling that you're on call all the time. It's a great misnomer that entrepreneurs in general, dentists specifically, do not need to be feeling like you're on call 24/7, 365.
Yeah, that happens. And we see it all the time in our forums and in some of our Facebook groups and things like that, where they're like, I'm dreading going into work the next day. And I'm like, you made this place, you created it and you're dreading it now.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that?
Yeah, they're disconnected from why they did it in the first place. They fell into reaction instead of running the practice is running them. When they're in that state of Sunday night is a dread to them, they've fallen into the trap. They're completely reacting.
And so the first step, what would you recommend? Like, this is what we're going to do to pivot the pendulum the other way.
Yeah. Pause yourself and change it. You flip it. I'm dreading going in tomorrow. Great. What would it take for you to couldn't wait to get into work tomorrow? What situation, what environment, what would have to be present for you to absolutely cannot wait to get into your practice Monday morning? That's where you start. Because that gap, that's the change we're going to work on. That's what we're going to so-called fix, because that's what's not working for you. If I'm dreading it, I'm dreading something specific. So what makes it fantastic? Well, whatever makes it fantastic is the thing we're going to drive towards. That's the goal.
Okay. And then the last question is, what's the one mindset shift that separates a burned out practice owner from one who's thriving?
And again, it goes back to the very first dentist I ever with it. I love being a dentist. She said all the time, I love being a dentist. I could not wait to get out of dental school and get into practice. She just loved it.
So always remembering that.
Always remember, I mean, there's probably some, but I've never been a dentist that accidentally went into the business. It seems that dentists are very, very specific about something they wanted to do. Okay. Remember that you wanted to do this. If we know you wanted to do it and there's something that's bugging you now, we can figure that out. Just remember why. Remember that you wanted to do this, right? You're good at this. People rely on you. Think of every patient that has ever sighed a big sigh of relief after you've helped them and you've made it painless and they're better for it.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ken. I appreciate your time. And if anyone has any further questions, you can definitely find them on the Dental Marketer Society Facebook group, or where can they reach out to you directly?
KenKilday.com is my website. And I have right under contact me. I'm one of those people that has a calendar right there. If you wanted 15 minutes, you've got it. 15, 30 minutes, they're both on there. You can schedule time and find me and I'll get you the templates that you'd like to have.
Beautiful. So that's going to be in the show notes below. Definitely reach out to Ken. And Ken, thank you for being with me this morning.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Mike.